to another episode of Let's Chat Reality. I'm Molly,
I'm Michael.
and today we're excited to be discussing the Big Brother finale, Love is Blind season 7, as well as Survivor. So, got lots to cover, so let's just jump right in with talking about Big Brother. So, the season ended last night as we're recording this on Monday, so it ended the Sunday. And what were your thoughts, Michael, just overall on the season before we get more into the finale?
Overall, I was a big fan of this season. I think that Big Brother 26 to me really reinvigorated my love for Big Brother in a lot of ways. 25, the first half was great, but the second half was so bad that it overshadowed it. So I feel like I came into the season super kind of nervous, skeptical of Big Brother as a whole and how much longer it could go for unless they were actually willing to make some really serious changes. But I think a lot of those changes they made. So I was a big fan of this season. And, I know we'll get a lot more into this, but I think super deserving winner, fun finale. And I'm ending this on a really positive note.
Yeah, I agree. And so in the finale, we first see the HOH comps and get to see the Chelsea and MJ win parts 1 and 2. And then, so what are your thoughts first on that, seeing those competitions?
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, I was a little bit surprised that MJ didn't win part one because I feel like she's just kind of been winning everything lately, it seems like. I mean, she and Chelsea have, but I feel like Chelsea's wins have come a lot of times when MJ was not competing. So, I mean, MJ won 11 competitions this season, breaking a record of all time. So, anytime MJ doesn't win something is kind of surprising. And not only that, she was the first one out. But I mean, when she didn't win, then yeah, I mean, I was not surprised that Chelsea won, and then obviously not surprised that MJ won part two. So those were pretty expected, but fun competitions. I enjoyed watching them, even knowing what was happening.
Yeah, me too. And then before we see part 3, we see that Taylor Hale comes out, Big Brother 24 winner, to host the jury roundtable. So, what did you think of that? Do you think she did a good job there?
I think she did great. Yeah, I mean, obviously Dr. Will has hosted that since BB15. So it was she did it for, 10 years, and we were all wondering kind of who was going to take his place, and a lot of people said, "Oh, Dan or Derek," but I think Taylor was the perfect person. She was a very recent winner, so I think that she kind of understands the game in its current form a lot better than somebody like Dr. Will does, to be honest. I sometimes wonder how much she even watched of the more recent seasons. So we know that Taylor's been super invested in the show since she won just a couple years ago, and she knows these house guests. She, knows the season that she's talking about, and I thought she did a really, really good job. And we know that she wants to go into hosting and things like that, and this was, I think, a perfect segue into that potential, for where she can go from here. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think she's like has that just natural speaking ability that she's just like I mean, obviously she used to be in pageants and all that stuff too, so she's had that kind of background already of being a good speaker and obviously in her season all of her speeches I was just awed by. So for this, I think she did a really great job and being able to understand like what the players were going through and asking the right questions there. So and hearing about just their thoughts and overall like who was left and how they could potentially sway votes or not or how the games were. So I thought she did a really great job. So I hope that she keeps coming back and hosting that.
Yeah, and she's
Um,
like someone who's known for her jury speech. Like that is what people think of her. When they think of Taylor, they think of that final jury speech. And so I think that is somebody who's so perfect for this role as well.
mhm. Yeah, for sure. So Team Taylor over here. Also, then we see then in part 3 that MJ wins HOH for this part. So do you think that, well, we see then she chooses to choose Chelsea there, but who do you think she should have chosen? And do you think that she made the right choice?
No, and no, and no, and no, and no. Well, look, I mean, it's easy for us to say, no, she didn't make the right choice.
Yeah.
She lost 7-0. Spoiler alert. But I do think that it really seems like she doesn't regret it. So, I mean, who are we to say that it was the wrong choice, I guess, for what she was looking for? Like, to her, loyalty meant more than $675,000. And more power to her, I guess. But in this game, it was the wrong move if her goal was to win this game and the prize money. That doesn't seem like that was her goal necessarily, or at least she cared more about being a loyal friend and ally than winning the money. So I guess to her, to do what she wanted to do, I guess she did that. But to the rest
Yeah.
of us, certainly seems like a very questionable decision.
Yeah, agreed. We were texting throughout this, and I thought she definitely should have chosen Cam just for her chances of winning. But you also thought, we both kind of thought that she was not going to do that and she was going to stick to Chelsea, which obviously in her mind, like, she did just want that loyalty to remain there. And obviously then it lost her the game, but she did take Chelsea there.
Well,
So
yeah, and I mean, I will say also, we were texting and, you had a bunch of your friends over and, we were saying, like, predicting what the vote count was going to be. And a couple of your friends thought, Jeff, who shout out has been on our pod, thought that the vote was going to be 4-3. So, I mean, that's pretty close. And so, like, I feel like I'm kind of had, and maybe, I watch the feeds more than, most, but I kind of thought, oh, it's going to be either 6-1 or 7-0. But like, people have different perspectives. And I think like that is something that you kind of forget, that MJ doesn't know all the information that we know of how much Chelsea has been working behind the scenes and how much she really manipulated her. And so I think that'll be stuff that she finds out as she watches the show. But MJ's perspective is probably closer to somebody who doesn't watch the feeds. And to her, maybe she thought there is a chance that it could be a close vote of, 4-3, 5-2, and maybe I can convince one or two more people in my final speech that I deserve it. And I could get there that way and be a loyal friend. Like, so I could see how maybe in her mind it wasn't as much of a knockout as I think the people who know every perspective, and watch it all, all the time and see the diary rooms and et cetera, as we kind of expected it to be.
oh yeah, definitely. And I think that definitely goes to show in that we see in the end there also Chelsea just being really great in her speeches there, that I feel like that definitely persuaded the people who we maybe thought who were going to vote maybe go for MJ, then were persuaded to go for Chelsea just because of how she was able to really speak to her game. And I feel like MJ did an okay job, but what are your thoughts overall on how Chelsea and MJ did in their jury answers?
I think Chelsea did amazing. I think it's going to go down in history as probably like a top 3 performance. I think Taylor Hale is up there as, potentially number 1. So I think that Chelsea kind of comparing herself to a diamond is very akin to Taylor comparing herself to the sword. And, I think she did a fantastic job. I mean, she does this for a living. So, I mean, kind of expected her to do an amazing job. And yeah, I mean, I think that I would say MJ didn't do terribly. I think we've seen much worse. I think go back and watch season 15, Gina Marie. I mean, that was probably the worst performance of all time in the final 2. And I think that if you watch that and watch Mackenzie's next to it, it'll make you feel a lot better about Mackenzie's. But I mean, still, like, MJ talking about her best move being getting out Leah, the one move that she wasn't manipulated into doing, and then Chelsea basically being like, yeah, it was me that manipulated you into doing that. I mean, not great, but you know what? I think I would say that MJ didn't lose any votes from her performance, but Chelsea certainly potentially gained a couple that, the kind of Leah and Angelas of the world who maybe were on the fence. I think that Chelsea's amazing performance potentially solidified those.
Yeah, for sure. And then we see that the pre-jury people come out, and they ask them some questions. Particularly, we see Tucker and Rubina reconnect, and Tucker brings her roses. So I thought that was cute. What were your thoughts overall on seeing the pre-jury reunion, I guess we can call it?
Yeah. I mean, I will say, when when Tucker went to go grab the roses, I was like, "Oh my god, he's proposing! Don't, no, no, Code Red, don't do it." But thankfully, he was not, and it was cute. But yeah, I mean, it was fun to see like Angela and Matt reconnect. Like that was incredibly uncomfortable, but fun. And obviously with the charcuterie board, I feel like Angela and Tucker were really the highlights. I feel like of that segment that we got to see both of them, a lot of both of them. And yeah, I mean, this was just such a fun cast. I think everyone getting together, it was really nice to see everyone again. And you can't say that every season, I feel like. Sometimes it's like, oh God, we have to see the pre-jurors, but, or sometimes the pre-jurors are the only ones that we actually still like by the end of the season. But this time, all around, fun cast. So seeing everyone together again was really fun.
Yeah,
What do you
I
think?
agree. I think that like they also talked to them just the right amount. Like I feel like they didn't overdo it in that sense because obviously we still wanted to see then who was going to win. And the next part of that, so then we get to see the votes come out, and it ends up being a unanimous vote for Chelsea, which we kind of already alluded to here. But how do you think that she ranks among previous winners?
You know what? I really need to think about this more, but I would write at this moment, and there's probably some recency bias here, but I think I'd put her in the top 5 for
Wow.
sure. I mean, like when I just think about it, there's some like legendary winners: Derek, Dan, Dr. Will. I mean, Andy Herron's an amazing winner. I feel like uh, Chelsea's game has been compared a lot to Maggie from BB6, but I think that Chelsea is somebody whose win will only look better and better as the years go on. Because I feel like when you, and I shout him out every time we talk about Big Brother, but Taryn Armstrong from RJP was saying today that there are certain winners who, when you think about it right after their win, all the little details are still in your mind that they did wrong throughout the season. Like every little mistake that they made or potential mistake where they put themselves in a position that wasn't the best or, had them in danger of potentially being nominated. All of those you still think about. But as the years go on, you forget about those and you only think about the good parts of their game. And you think that like, oh, they played such a perfect game, 5 years from now when you've forgotten every little detail of the season. So I think that Chelsea's one of those winners that I think as the years go on are just going to kind of go up and up in the rankings. So I think that right now I would definitely say top 5, and I think that will probably only go up in my mind as the years go on.
Yeah, I think so too. I think she did a really great job in making sure that she did the right moves, the right times, and obviously made it there all the way to the end. So I'm happy that we ended up with a Chelsea win. I mean, it was kind of obvious towards the end there that she was the most obvious choice to win. So if someone had made a big move to get her out, obviously then maybe that person could have won, but no one took that shot. So she ended up with the win there. I mean, MJ could have not taken her to the final two with her, but obviously she chose the loyalty there, which still I don't know if she's gonna regret now, but I'm sure MJ's gonna do fine post show of like brand deals and all that stuff
Probably the challenge.
that would be in
Yeah.
a challenge. She'll definitely get some more TV time. So yeah,
Yeah.
so
And
I
I
don't
think
feel
like
that bad.
Chelsea, yeah. No, I mean I think that Chelsea's win also was even more impressive the fact that she was taken there. She
Yeah,
convinced somebody to take her there, and I think that even puts her another echelon.
yes.
Because if she had won it herself, that would have been impressive. But to actually convince somebody when you've played that good of a game and everyone knows that you are the most likely winner and you still get somebody to take you there over somebody who MJ more than likely would have beaten is really impressive.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. So I'm so excited to see Chelsea as the winner here. And then we also got to see then America's favorite player. We see that the top three were Tucker, Angela, and Quinn, and then Tucker comes out on top. So are you surprised by that? And who do you think was second and third?
I was not surprised at all by
Mhm.
Tucker's win. I was not surprised that, well, I thought Angela had a pretty good shot at being in the top 3,
Yeah.
but also there were so many people on, like, Facebook, like the older crowd of Big Brother watchers, more conservative crowd maybe, did not like Angela, was still like talking about how much they love Matt after 80 days of him not being there. But Quinn was the surprise for me because I thought Leah was going to take that spot. And I'm sure Leah was probably fourth, but I feel like Quinn got a really good episode in the little recap episode that they did on Friday night. He was seen a lot, whereas Leah was barely seen at all there. And I think that probably that may have put Quinn back in the minds of people voting kind of at the last minute there that had just seen that episode. So I think that, excuse me, sorry, that probably helped Quinn. But also, Quinn was just a big character in general. And so, yeah, I mean, I was so not surprised by the win, but a little bit surprised by Quinn being in the top three.
Yeah, I agree. I thought that for sure was going to see Tucker and Angela in the top three there, but I thought also that could have been Leah, but Quinn ranked up higher than that. So, but I'm happy that Tucker won because he was definitely a great player and very entertaining. So I'm glad that he got it. And also, it's the first time that anyone has gotten it from pre-jury. So that's also a big milestone there. So he really made an impact on the season, even pre-jury. So I'm happy for him.
Yeah, and to be fair, in a 9-person jury, he would have been on the jury. And I think we have had before that the first or second juror has won it in a 9-person jury. So technically, he, in terms of the number of days he was in the house, I'm not sure that is a record, but he was not in the jury. So that is technically a record there. So yeah, that was pretty cool.
Was this the first time it was 7 in the jury?
No, so last season they also had a 7-person jury. Last season the jury didn't start till like day 75 or something crazy like that because it was such a long season. But they used to do 7-person juries from season 4 through 15, I want to say. Yeah, I think 15 or 14 or 15. And then they started doing 9-person juries for a long time, and then now they went back to 7.
Yeah. Well, I like the 7 people. What were your thoughts on that?
No, I do too. I like a 7-person jury better because a lot of people in this game for a long time were just saying, I just want to make jury. I just want to make jury. And that's so annoying because it's like, why are you here? Try to win, not get to jury. So I think it's nice to make it a little harder for them to just get to jury. And so we don't hear that as much anymore now that they've made the jury harder to get to.
Yeah, I agree. So overall, what were your thoughts in the finale?
Yeah, I thought it was a good finale, great season, like I said. I hope that they take a lot of the positive feedback from this season, understand why there was positive feedback from this season, and use that to, make BB27 even better. I'm fearful that they potentially don't understand why this season was so well liked and that they'll take the wrong lessons from it. But I'm not going to get scared yet. We'll see. I'm curious to see if they will bring back the AI arena. I hope that they do in some form. I think that was great. Just call it the arena and make it a standard part of BB. I would not be upset at all. So, yeah, I think lots of fun this season.
Yeah, I agree. I kind of had fallen off watching it the past few seasons. It's because I felt like it wasn't as much entertainment as I was hoping for throughout the season, but this season definitely didn't disappoint in that sense. And I like the AI Arena twist as well in that sense that we didn't know going to Thursday night what was going to happen because there were 3 nominees and going to only be 2. So that added an extra layer there. So hopefully they do listen to the right feedback and we can see that for BB 27. Do you have any other thoughts about what you would want in BB 27?
No, I mean, I think, yeah, I would love some form of the AI arena to come back. I hope that even if it's not exactly that, I hope that there's something to where there's some mystery going into Thursday night. Not too much mystery. I don't want every single person to be vulnerable going into Thursday. I think that would be annoying. But I hope that it's something similar where there's 3-4 potential options on the people on the block, and you have to come up with a bunch of different scenarios, and it makes the gameplay have to be a lot more complex and a lot more not just Monday night we know exactly what's going to happen. So I do hope that that part of it returns for 27, and I hope we get to see lots of fun big characters like we did this season. The Angelas and Tuckers of the world were really fun to watch, and I hope that they continue to cast those types of players rather than just boring people who are willing to be in a 8-person alliance and, go to the end with them and not really, actually bother to play the game.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's move into Love is Blind season 7 now. So we have the first 8 episodes or 9 episodes that have been released.
Nine.
9. Yeah. So we've got a big chunk of this season already. So first, let's just talk about our overall thoughts before we dive into more of the specific couples that we see get engaged. So I first off think that the season is already off to a great start, or it's been a really great season. I think that overall, like each of the cast members has interesting stories and all of the different dynamics within the couples. There's different layers to that. So I'm really been enjoying this season. What about you?
I have too. It's been a wild ride. I think, especially this last drop of the 3 episodes, the episodes 8 and 9 both ended with pretty shocking reveals that I thought were I didn't see coming. So I have really enjoyed this season so far. Yeah, I think even the couples that I feel like when we ended the first drop, there were quite a few couples where I was like, they're gonna be boring. Like there's not gonna be much drama there. And lo and behold, a couple of those, that was not the case. There's quite a bit to talk about. So I'm excited to get into it.
Yes. So first, let's start with Brittany and Leo. So in the pods, Leo was between Brittany and Hannah up until the very end there, but then decides to go with Brittany. But in his conversations with Hannah, like I didn't really love the way he was treating them, both Brittany and Hannah. But in particular, in the conversation with Hannah, when she was saying how she just told Nick she loved him, and Leo just like blew up on her, and I was like, "What? You want Brittany more? Like, why are you reacting this way when you like already have stronger feelings for someone else also?" So I was annoyed about that. But what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, Leo was really annoying in the pods. I mean, just talking about money all the time and how he's a trust fund baby, basically. Like, it was just really off putting. And I didn't like the way that he handled his conversation with Hannah at all. It felt like he was very much kind of, I mean, gaslighting is such an overused word in reality TV, but it really kind of did feel like he was gaslighting Hannah there.
Mhm.
And I, yeah, I was really glad that Hannah didn't fall for it and stuck to her guns and, asked Nick to come back and then, really stuck to that and didn't uh, get kind of fooled by Leo and end up going in that direction again. So, yeah, Brittany and Leo's story was not long for this world. We did not end up following their story after the pods, which I think was interesting because we've never really seen that before on the show where they started telling us a story and then ended it at the pods without them breaking up. They just basically came to a screen and said, Brittany and Leo, we did not continue following their story. They did not go to Mexico with the other couples, and they went on a trip to Miami instead and broke up 3 weeks later. So, I think that it seems like from kind of what I've read afterwards that they basically just didn't think that their relationship was strong enough that they were going to make it to the altar. So they were probably right.
Yeah. No, I think I was interested to see that as well, that we were kind of invested in them. And then they were just like, okay, just kidding. You're not going to see the rest here. And obviously they broke up. So it makes sense why they didn't show us them. But I feel like because we were getting so much drama with them throughout the season, like that could have been another layer if we were following them throughout and when they go to Mexico and all that stuff. And like if Leo and Hannah were to meet, like I don't know if we're actually going to see that in this season now because he left. But so that's interesting. But I think overall, like it's definitely for the best that Brittany and Leo had broken up, just because I think that they were not compatible. And you can kind of already sense that, like when they were seeing each other in person, that Brittany just kind of felt off about it. So
Mhm.
I'm glad that they broke it off and didn't have to worry about the rest of it and being shown even more like negative light towards them, because I feel like they kind of already were seeing that. And then it was like when that ended, it made sense to see that part. But any other thoughts
Yeah.
about Brittany and Leo before we move on?
No, I mean, I think you're right. Like, they certainly would have added drama to the Mexico trip if they were there. Like, I mean, we saw when all the couples got together, there was no drama at all. And there certainly would have been if Brittany and Leo had been there. But, we ended up getting more than enough drama, I would say, in the next drop of episodes. So I think it ended up being just fine. But it would have, I think, certainly added some drama to the end of that first drop when they were on their retreat there. But,
Yeah.
I think that if they're looking to actually produce long lasting couples on this show, I think they made the right move by not following them any further.
Yeah, for sure. And then our next couple we're going to go over is Alex and Tim. So, what are your first thoughts on them and their connection?
Yeah, I don't think that we saw a lot of them honestly in this drop. These last three episodes, I feel like they were pretty quiet. But what was so interesting is that they ended the first drop with the biggest drama. I mean, the big cliffhanger going into this week's episodes were whether they were going to be able to get over that huge fight that we didn't even see off camera in Mexico. After the all the couples got together, they apparently had this huge fight, and we not only didn't get to see it, but then we kind of saw this one conversation they had. They didn't seem to come to a lot of co- resolution, but then they kind of just said, "Okay, we'll work on it," and then I feel like they've been fine ever since then. It really hasn't gotten brought up, so that was pretty surprising to me. But yeah, I feel like right now they seem to be in a pretty good place. I don't know if I think that they're going to actually get married. I feel like he is still probably harboring some anger about what happened. I don't know that he's fully gotten back on board yet, but they don't seem to be having a ton of issues anymore. So I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think they will make it. I think after Tim talked to Alex's dad, like that's when I think like they kind of had a shift there, and that like it seems like they really do. I mean, obviously they loved each other before this fight happened, but like I feel like that fight honestly brought them a little bit closer to each other.
Mm,
That they were able to work through that and then have that moment with her family. So I'm rooting for them here. I don't know if they're gonna make it long term, but I think they will get married.
yeah, I could see it go either way. I wouldn't be shocked if they got married. I wouldn't be shocked if they didn't. So I think this is one of those that I flip a coin, and I think that we'll get a better sense maybe with these next two episodes. I feel like
Yeah.
they weren't a huge focus of these, so I feel like maybe they'll be a bigger focus in the next two.
Yeah. But I feel like because of that, then it makes it seem like they're not gonna have more problems because they didn't like build them up as much.
That's
Uh,
true.
so but we'll see.
We will
But a
see.
couple that is having problems constantly. I feel like this is the most turmoil prone couple, but is Hannah and Nick. So, do you
Do you
think?
think they're the most turmoil prone?
Okay, maybe not most. I think from the pods till like
Yeah, in the pods for sure.
yeah, from because of Hannah's drama in the pods, I think because we saw them like break up and then get back
Yeah,
together. It started off on a rocky note, but now I feel like maybe not as much as other couples, but there's still I feel like there's still that layer of that foundation that's still not the best.
that's true.
So that's why I feel like they're not gonna last. But I mean, there are other reasons too. I think that just their personalities don't really mesh as well as
Yeah,
they want to, or as they talk about it.
yeah.
But yeah. So what do you think?
No, I agree. I think that they have. There are times when I think they have a cute dynamic, like they just kind of like rib each other, and it's kind of cute to watch. It reminds me a bit of Micah and Paul from season
Yeah.
4, where like I feel like they're cute together, but I don't know that there's chemistry there, like romantic chemistry. Like I feel like I could just see them as kind of like best friends, but not necessarily romantic or like there's a ton of chemistry. I don't know. I go back and forth because there are times when I see it and there are times when I don't. And I feel like sometimes Hannah can be a little bit mean towards him, and it probably kind of hurts his feelings more than he lets on. I liked the conversation that he had with Hannah's brother. I thought that was a good conversation that maybe gave him some insight into Hannah and why she is the way she is. But and there are times when I think Hannah just doesn't respect Nick. So I don't know. I would say that I don't think that they end up together. I question. I think they'll make it to the altar. I think that maybe I don't know who would say no. I feel like it might just be a mutual no.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think so too. And I think that because they're already in this stage of it, that they will, like, I feel like they definitely are going to make it to the altar, but I think that they're just not gonna move past that part of it. Obviously, I don't think, maybe they'll be like Micah and Paul, where they like we'll try something afterwards and then realize it's not good. But I also just think maybe they're just gonna end it there and then not stay in contact. And now I've seen a lot of TikToks from Hannah that she has lost weight and she's like doing really well. It seems more like
Yeah.
her mental state is probably in a better spot now. I think from when she was filming, like now versus when she was like a year ago, seems to be
Mm.
healthier mindset wise. So maybe that also has an impact. And she like after that breakup, she was just like, okay, now I need to focus on myself. So that makes me think that they're not together. Also,
Yeah, like a post breakup glow up.
yeah. So I mean, I love Hannah, but I do think that they're not compatible for each other.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that's what it boils down to.
yeah. So next couple is Taylor and Garrett. And I love Taylor and Garrett together. I think that out of everyone, I think they're my favorite couple. Um, and I think just from the start of their conversations, like because they had such a cute, I was like surprised what I didn't know what they were talking about, but whatever they were talking about in terms of like the science like words and like all
Oh
the
yeah.
scientific
I almost
things.
forgot about that they both
Yeah,
have, or did they both have science related tattoos, or was it just
yeah.
Taylor? Okay.
They do. So I thought that was a really cute connection because I was like, what are the odds of that happening? So from the
Crazy.
get go, it just felt like they were going to be a strong couple. And obviously, we are seeing them have good conversations. And obviously, any kind of couple is going to have some sort of disagreements. But it seems like that their disagreement is the most minimal one. It's more like location, which obviously, location where you live is a big part of a relationship. But I think that because Garrett loves Taylor so much, like I think he would be okay with moving. But what were your thoughts overall?
Yeah, no, I think they're really cute together. We've seen the pictures of Garrett looking like a completely different human being now, and I think there's a lot of speculation that that is Taylor's influence, and that that's a sign that they did get married and they're still together now. So we'll see if that's true. But I mean, even just by what we're seeing on the show, yeah, I mean, I can't imagine that they don't get married, right? I mean, that would be pretty shocking at this point if something big enough happened between them that would cause them not to both say yes at the altar. I just can't imagine. So I think really to me, the only question is if they do get married, are they still together a year later? But I think that probably from what I've seen, I would say as of right now, the answer is yes to both of those.
Yeah, I would say yes as well. I think they're definitely together. Also, maybe if they don't get married, maybe they say they're gonna still stay dating and then get married later on, like to make sure like they can figure out their living
Yeah,
situation.
yeah,
Um, but I still think they're together at this time.
yeah. I
Um,
agree. I'm scarred from Love Is Blind UK. With what I can't even remember their names. Oh my god, was Steven and Sabrina?
yeah,
Yeah, the ones who looked, I mean, I feel like kind of the similar archetype, Love is Blind archetype of the couple that just doesn't fight at all and has no issues and seems so cute together. And then at the reunion, they were like the worst couple. So who knows? But as of right now, I still have a lot of hope.
Me too. And so our next couple is Marissa and Ramses. I feel like them, like looks wise, like they make a lot of sense together, which it was cute to see their reunion or when they rekindled or not rekindled, when they first meet each other. I felt like that moment was really nice to see them just together. It just like made sense in my
Mhm.
mind. And I think that obviously they do have some issues to work through as well, but I think that they're a pretty strong couple overall at this point. Maybe it won't last, but what are your thoughts?
Okay, I have, I think, the most thoughts on Marissa and
Oh,
Ramses of all the
okay.
couples. This whole military conversation
Yeah.
that they had, I I can see Ramsey's side. Like I understand his critiques and his, feelings about the military. My big question is, because this seemed like such a point for him that, a deal breaker of if she's going to, support the military at all, if she's going to potentially even think about going back into the military, like it's over. I can't say yes. I can't get married. We're going to get divorced. Why did he not bring this up in the pods?
Yeah.
Like she told him. He knew this in the pods. I don't
Mhm.
think she said anything major after that conflicted with anything that she said in the pods. I don't think she had any big revelations that she said that she didn't say in the pods. So I don't understand why all of a sudden that was such a deal breaker for him. Like they should have had this long thought out conversation in the pods. And I just can't understand that. I think that I didn't love the way that he handled that conversation either. It felt very condescending to me, very, I don't know, like he didn't really listen to her, like, because she wasn't totally supporting the military. Like, she has very conflicting thoughts about it and very nuanced thoughts. And I thought that she handled the conversation really well. And I just felt like he was kind of shutting her down and didn't really want to listen to it. And that frustrated me for her. So I just don't. I don't know that that's going to break them apart. I also didn't love the conversation that they had about birth control and him not wanting to wear a condom and like all of this stuff. Like, just made me think that I don't know if he's like trying to play the part of this like progressive king for playing it up for Twitter, and this was kind of like a I don't know. I don't know how to reconcile that. I don't know. Like on one hand, he's so progressive, and on one hand, he's trying to control women. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I didn't like that either. I think that Marissa definitely deserves someone who wouldn't question her like loyalties to something that she feels like so strongly about. Because she has been part of the military and she could go back to the Navy. So I think that part of it, like the fact that he's like giving that ultimatum, like if you were going back, I wouldn't be with you. Like that doesn't sit right with me because like she should have the right to do what she wants to do. And like trust her as a person that like she's not the one like directly influencing whatever he's trying to like protect, like it's like
Right.
her in that is not going to change the world. Like that's really a minuscule part of it, like, but I guess because her values are aligning with that more, that's what his problem is. So I think it comes down to that, which obviously is not ideal. So we'll have to see how these conversations pan out. But it seems like they're kind of glossing over it. Like obviously, it's like been a really big conversation focus right now, but I think that they'll still make it to the altar, but then we'll say no at the altar.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of. I don't know. And I want to be clear that I don't have an issue necessarily with his thoughts about the military.
Oh,
Like, I can completely understand that. I just think when she told him about that in the pods, I feel like that was the time for him to really get a good sense of kind of where she was with it and express his feelings about it and say like, "Hey, this is a deal breaker for me. If you're at all thinking about going back or if you have these X, Y, and Z feelings about it, I don't know that we're going to end up together." And then she could have made an informed decision based on that. And I feel like he kind of misrepresented how big of a deal it was for him.
mhm.
And now all of a sudden, right before the weddings,
Yeah,
this is actually a really big issue. So I
yeah,
don't know. That's my only problem with it.
yeah. I think I agree with that as well, but we'll have to see what happens there. But another couple that's now broken up is Monica and Steven. So we see them throughout the pods. I feel like they were having some really good conversations about like just overall things seem to be both mature about a lot of different things. So I was surprised to see this happen this late in the game now. But basically, Steven was texting with some girl and
Well, at a sleep
it,
test,
yeah.
drunk.
Um, well, yeah, he was doing a sleep test. I don't know what he was doing, like while he was drinking. I don't know. That doesn't make any sense. No.
Those two things don't go
Yeah.
together.
Yeah. So don't know what to believe on that side of it. But what we hear is that he's doing a sleep test and texting someone that is like in a very provocative way, and Monica sees that, and he doesn't have an excuse to say, "Yeah, that didn't happen." He just says, "Yeah, you're right." So doesn't even try to back out of that, and then they break up. And I feel bad for Monica because I love her, but also she deserves someone who will not do that, emotionally cheat or almost physically, I guess, in a way, like by texting, that kind of stuff. But yeah. So, what are your thoughts overall?
That was wild. I mean, when we went into that scene, like, and we just saw Taylor and Monica crying together, I was like, did I pass out for the last 15 minutes and miss a whole scene? Like, I literally rewound it. I was like, have I couldn't figure out, like, did they, like, lose a scene here? Like, what happened? And then, no, we were just plopped right into that. And yeah, that was really crazy and unexpected because I think before that I was really feeling bad for Steven because it felt like Monica was very kind of persistent about wanting flowers and like it felt like she was being a little bit needy, a little bit demanding. I don't know. I wasn't really feeling her as much. And then it was like, oh no, she had a good reason, I guess, to feel a little paranoid, a little not thought about. And he was cheating on her emotionally at the very least. So that was really crazy. And how she found out about it was crazy too. I mean, I don't know, Molly, if you've seen the interviews with Monica. Your bestie Nick Vial did an interview with Monica, and she talked about how she was just, what was it exactly that she was looking at his phone, saw a text come up and just opened his phone so she could read it to him. And then the next text below it was from this girl that she didn't recognize the name, and she could kind of see the start of a text that looked kind of sketchy. And so then she clicked on it, and it was this whole conversation from the night before and that morning. And yeah, I mean, he did not do a good job lying about that, covering it up. I mean, it's just kind of crazy. I mean, it really seems like he's either like a sex addict or just a compulsive liar. I don't know. He needs some help, is all I can say.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Like he put on a really good front for a while, and then obviously that was not able to sustain. But we'll have to see what's gonna happen the next. But if we hear any more, I guess in the reunion we can hear more of the follow ups there, like what actually, if there's any more information we can get. But at this point, they're just probably not on any speaking terms. So
Yeah, I'm
um,
curious if either at least Monica, like if because I'm sure they'll do another like Pod Squad get together in this next batch, and I wonder if at least she'll be there and if we'll get any sort of update as to whether they've had any contact since then. And I wonder if he'll be at the reunion. So either way, I'm sure we'll hear from her at the reunion at the very least, but I'm curious if
Yep.
he'll end up showing up.
Yes, for sure. Well, another couple that's going through it right now, they have not broken up yet, but probably, is Ashley and Tyler. So in the pods, I really thought they were a really strong couple and I really liked them and just overall like their vibes just seemed to match really well. But obviously then we find out Tyler has hidden some really big information from Ashley, that comes up in this last batch of episodes that we hear that Tyler has 3 children via a sperm donation. So he has kids out there, but not like I guess he hasn't taken care of them because they were a sperm donor. But for that, he didn't bring that up at all, and Ashley is obviously like surprised to hear that news and something that you would think your partner would want to tell you about. So what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, just like how did he think he was gonna not say anything? Like
Yeah.
why? Just why? I don't understand why people just don't put everything out there in the pods. I mean, I guess okay, I do get it because they think if they do that then they're not going to get engaged and then they're not going to be on the show. So they basically trap a person into proposing or saying yes to a proposal and then actually, make these big revelations after the fact once they're stuck and have committed to following this couple the entire season. And I guess that's probably what Tyler was doing. Is just thought that this information would be too much for Ashley. And, I mean, it's just horrible to put that information on somebody probably what days, a week maybe before the weddings. So I just felt so bad for Ashley and the way that he's even calling them just, sperm baby. Like he's in their lives. We've seen this on social media posts, and his the mother of those children has come out and said, I don't know why he's presenting these children in this way. Like, I mean, I hope they're not together.
Yeah. I don't see a way that they are. I think they definitely break up,
Yeah.
and that's for the best.
Yeah. I think that's probably most likely.
Yes. Well, I'm excited to see the rest of the episodes come out. Or when do we get the finales? Not this week, but next week.
So this Wednesday we get episodes 10 and 11. The following Wednesday we get the finale, and then I think that Sunday we get the reunion, something like that.
Okay. So it's coming up, and we'll be sure to cover the rest of it as well.
Yes, we will be covering it, but for right now, let's move into some Survivor, shall we?
Yes.
So we covered the premiere, and we haven't covered the last couple episodes. So Molly, what were your thoughts on last week's Aisha vote? So this was an interesting tribal when the Lavo tribe went to tribal for the first time. We didn't get to cover that whole episode, but just kind of what were your overall thoughts on that vote that led us into this past episode?
I was sad to see Asia go. I think that obviously we know that she's a podcaster, and so I was hoping that she would make it further along, but I can see why the tribe would want to vote her out. So it made sense in that moment, but obviously I was sad to see that. What about you?
Yeah, I was devastated, honestly. Like I was so excited when Asia showed up on the Survivor 46 finale when they showed the preview for this season, and it was not spoiled at all that she was on that season. Like the cast had started to kind of come out when they started filming, but they had just started filming like maybe I don't know, a few days. No, it was I guess like a few weeks before that cuz yeah. But not much had come out yet spoiled, and so when her face came on the screen I was like, wait, I know that, girl. Like, wait, and then I was like, wait, do I know her in real life? No, 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 that's Asia from RHAP. So that was so exciting, so shocking. And for the last few months since then, I've just been so excited for her. And yeah, devastated to see her go out that early. But yeah, I mean, I think that it probably was the right move. I think her biggest mistake was not fully agreeing in that moment to take out Seoul. I think that if she had just told them that she was down to do that, the vote would have remained on Seoul. Like, I think Asia would have been fine. But I think because she was hesitant to do that and she thought that she could get them to go against Genevieve, that was her big mistake. And I don't blame her for that because getting out Seoul was not a good move for Asia.
Mhm.
That was purely just would have been a survival tactic, but it would not have been good for her game. So I don't blame her for doing that. But unfortunately, that just told Teeny and Keyshawn that Asia wasn't going to be, necessarily an ally who's just kind of willing to go along with them, and that made it not worth it to try to save her. So,
Yeah, for sure.
but going into this week's episode, let's just kind of go through each of the tribes and kind of what we saw from the main highlights from each of them. So we'll start with the Gada tribe, the Yellow tribe. We saw the women's alliance form there with Anika, Rachel, and Sierra. They called themselves the Breadwinners. Now we've seen a little bit of disloyalty already in, the same episode it formed with Sierra telling Andy about this alliance, but not telling Sam, and that caused some drama there between Sam and Sierra. But do you think that at the end of the day that this women's alliance will remain loyal to each other, or will they just kind of be sold out and fall apart?
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna last very long. I would want them to, but I think because they've already outed themselves, like I don't see a way in that being able to remain as true as maybe they would hope it is. But I mean, I like the name of it. I thought that was clever. That the women were running it and they're called the breadwinners. So I think overall I like all those players. So hopefully they stay, but I don't think they will stay in that alliance.
You know what my first thought was when I heard the Breadwinners?
What?
Was the Ball Smashers from Big Brother OTT.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
That was the first thing I thought of when I heard that name. But another great women's alliance
Yeah,
that was actually very successful,
true.
underrated. But yeah, no, I agree. I unfortunately just don't see it lasting. I think that actually here's what I'll say. I think that if they can make it to the merge, all three of them together, I could see them really having each other's back and working together. But right now, if they end up going to tribal again, just the five of them, I
Mhm.
could see Sierra siding with the boys over them and getting one of the other two out.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
that would be her only other options. But I think that if they can make it to the merge, then I could see them actually sticking together and being more loyal to each other, where they would get out other guys from from another tribe and not the ones that Sierra's super close with. But uh, we'll see. We will see. Only a few more weeks left before the merge, I guess. So there's potential that they won't go back to tribal. But they did end up winning this immunity challenge, and as their reward, they got chickens, which we had not seen as a reward in quite a long time. Now, there was some debate, as there always is when there's chickens, as to whether to unalive the chickens and eat them or to wait until they lay eggs and have it uh, potentially get more out of it in the long run. So what do you think the right move was for them to do? Do you think they should have eaten the chickens now, or try to make it last longer?
I think they should make them last longer. I think eggs are obviously a good source of protein as well. So the more you can get out of it, I think the better. So the longer the chickens are alive, the longer you get more sustainable food. Because if you just eat the chicken right away, then after that, you won't get much more. So I think that it makes sense to wait.
I agree with that. I think that is absolutely the right move. Now, I would never be able to unalive them myself,
Yeah.
but I could see a world where they are just so hungry. Like, I know that it's so early in the game, but I could see that point where Sam is just like, I gotta eat this now. Like, we're not gonna win this next challenge if I have no energy, type of thing. And I could see that. And because I don't know if they end up going to tribal, do they lose the chickens? I'm not 100% sure on that. But if that is the case, I could see that where it's, that future is not necessarily super certain. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, I would just keep trying to tell myself that we'll be really happy later on if we, keep the chickens alive and have the eggs. So that would be my thought right now, as I am well fed and in air conditioning. But easier said than done, potentially. But let's move over to the Tuku tribe, the blue tribe. So the main thing that we saw with them here was that Sue finds the full powered immunity idol that's good until final five. So she found the idol, but it came down in a crate that was full of red paint. And the red paint splattered everywhere on her, all over the ground. And she tried to clean that up as best she could because that was pretty suspicious. But when she went over to everyone else thinking she had fully cleaned up, she still had some red paint on her face and on her body. And they thought it was blood. So that was, not the best cleanup job there. But do you think that the others will actually catch on that means that she has an idol? Or can she get away with it and will they just kind of forget about that eventually?
I don't think they'll forget about it. I think it definitely was a little bit suspicious in terms of it already seemed like they didn't really believe her in her lies of being like, oh, I just had the machete and like accidentally did something stupid. Like that was like so broad of her to say, like, I did something stupid. Like, what did you do? um,
Yeah.
but I think like honestly, when she was cleaning up, I was like surprised at how well she actually did clean up for the most part. So I was sad when it was like the tiniest little bit that didn't get cleaned up because she couldn't see her face of like a little bit on her hands too of like what actually happened. But I don't know. I mean, she has the idol now, so hopefully she won't get blindsided by it because I feel like that could happen. And like someone, they could vote her out, and like she won't know it's coming because they won't tell her the plan. But I don't know. We'll have to see.
Yeah, I think that there's probably a lot of suspicion that she has something, whether it's a full powered idol or whether they think it might just be some sort of other advantage. I don't know. But yeah, I don't think that she's going to fully get away with this, but I do think that these players came right off of watching season 45 where so many people went home with their idols in their pockets. And so I do think that these players are a lot more paranoid than last season in terms of just using that idol, and you'd rather, use it when you don't need it rather than not use it when you do need it.
Mhm.
So I could see her using it pretty soon if she ends up going to tribal. Maybe not the very first one, but if she can survive that, then maybe she would use it at the next one after that. Even if there's just kind of the slightest suspicion that there might be some votes going her way. But yeah, I think that people are going to be pretty paranoid now that she has something in her pocket. So
Yeah.
that'll be interesting. We'll see what happens there. But now let's move over to the main event, the Lavo tribe, the red tribe. Now, in the beginning of this episode, we saw Rome just kind of following Saul like a puppy dog everywhere he went. He was like his shadow. Saul could not go anywhere on this beach without Rome following him. Now, it really did seem like Rome was just kind of threatening Saul, really torturing him. Do you think that he went too far? Did this go beyond just the game, not letting Saul have a moment to himself on this beach? Or is it fair game in the game of Survivor?
I think I would have been really annoyed about that happening. Like, I think, especially you're eating too much, you're not getting that much sleep. Like, it's just irritating, any kind of thing like that. And Rome knows how to get on people's nerves. So I think that it definitely went a little bit too far, in my opinion. But yeah, what do you think?
I agree. I mean, I think that this kind of verged on the line of villain in the game versus villain in real life. Like, I don't know. I do think that it's not like Rome said anything problematic towards Saul. It's not like he did anything that, is like physically threatening in any way, shape, or form, of course. I do think that at some point it's just like, okay, let up for a second here. Like, it's okay. You can let Saul go, have a moment to himself and not be right next to him. Like, keep an eye on him from a distance, maybe. Like, just let him have some sort of moment to just sit by himself, have his thoughts, relax for a moment. And, it's very possible that he did do that. And we just saw him following him and just kind of assumed that was going on all day long. And maybe it wasn't, but it certainly seemed like the rest of the tribe also thought that Rome was potentially going too far with that. So, and later on, we obviously see, once they lose the immunity challenge, we see Rome kind of threaten Saul with taking away his vote. So with the threats and that, like it kind of, I think, straddled that line to me where it was maybe getting to a point where it's not fun to watch anymore. But for the most part, I guess, it's fair game, whether that's whether we would do it ourselves or not. But we also saw that Teeny, Andy, and Caroline ended up going on the journey this week. Now, they had the option of one of them voluntarily giving up their vote at the next tribal council. And if one of them is willing to do that, all three of them win an advantage that we find out is the amulet idol, which means that if all three of them are still left in the game, then they all have to, at the merge, they all get an idol and they have to decide to use it. All three of them have to decide to use it in order for it to be used as an idol. If two of them are still there, then both of them have to decide, and so on. So if one of them is only remaining, then that person just gets a full powered idol. Now, Teeny ends up deciding to give up her vote there. They're the one going to the next tribal council, obviously, because they're on the Lavo tribe. So, do you think that that was the right move for Teeny to volunteer to do it there, or was that a mistake?
Well, I think that Teeny knew they were in a decent spot on the tribe, so that like it did make sense that like I mean obviously someone is gonna have to give up their vote here. If you don't decide on it, then no one's getting the reward at all. So I think because Teeny figured out like no one else wanted to give it up, like it was either they do it or they're not gonna get anything. So I think it makes sense. Like obviously you don't want to lose your vote, but Teeny did remain safe, so it worked out this time.
Yeah, I mean, Teeny remained safe, but Teeny's ally did not. So now, if Teeny had had a vote there, God, here's me trying to do math. I don't think that would have necessarily changed anything,
Yeah, I don't
right?
think so.
I
No.
don't think so. But it certainly didn't help things, I guess. But for Kishan, spoiler alert. But moving into that, I will say the one thing, it did seem like Caroline was just about to say something when Teeny ended up voluntarily taking her vote. So I wonder if Caroline was going to volunteer and then Teeny just happened to get their words out before Caroline did. I don't know what Caroline was going to say, but I would be curious to find out if anyone, if that's out there once Caroline gets voted out, if she does interviews to hear what she was planning on saying in that moment. But yeah, so Kishan ends up going home here. But do you think that if Kishan had just kind of gone along with the plan to get out Saul rather than trying to flip it on Rome, that he would still be there, or would this have kind of ended up going this way regardless?
I think if Kishan had gone with the plan for Soul, I think that would have stayed. The Kishan wouldn't have gone out. I think because Kishan was kind of playing in the middle there, and then they kind of found out about that happening. Like I think then that ended up hurting Keyshawn more in the end. That if he had just stuck with the original plan, then and trying to flip it then on Rome, then I think Keyshawn would still be there.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that Keyshawn unfortunately just trusted Genevieve to go along with this when Genevieve, I will say, this is really the first episode we've seen much of Genevieve, and I thought she had a fantastic episode. I think that Genevieve, she ended up kind of, at first she was going along with this vote, it seemed like, to get out Rome that Keyshawn had initiated there and gotten Teeny on board with, gotten Genevieve on board with. And then Genevieve kind of started thinking about it and was like, you know what? This isn't best for my game. That Rome, this is good for Soul. This is good for Keyshawn, who are, kind of at their breaking point with Rome. But for her, Rome is probably most loyal to Genevieve out of everybody. And, he wasn't annoying her enough personally to, have it be beneficial to her game to get him out. So she ended up telling Rome about this, and they ended up being able to just the two of them use, Rome steal a vote and the fact that Teeny didn't have a vote to end up flipping this back on Keyshawn. And I think that was a brilliant move for Genevieve. And yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that was really good on Genevieve to do that. I think obviously like it seems now that she's pretty strong competitor now in the game. Like she was not gonna let a vote slide that wasn't really in her best interest.
Yeah.
She likes Rome, and so she didn't want Rome to leave. So I think that was really good on Genevieve's side, and hopefully we'll see Rome and Genevieve maybe continue working together. I feel like they have kind of solidified that as a pair now. If Genevieve was ready to get out Keyshawn because of that, so I think it'll be interesting to see that.
Yeah, no, at this point, Genevieve's definitely hitched her wagon to Rome, and I don't think there's
Yeah.
much going back at that point that, until the merge at least, because I think at this point, if I were Soul or Teeny, I would not trust that Genevieve would have my best interest at heart over Rome. I think she's basically picked a side. And, by leaving Soul and Teeny out of this plan, Genevieve and Rome have shown that they, it's basically 2 versus 2 at this point. And so I'd be interested if they do end up going to tribal, how that would play out. But we will see if they do end up going, or I kind of hope that this next episode, one of the other 2 tribes goes to tribal, so we can kind of see their more of those tribes dynamics again, because we've had 2 very Lavo focused episodes now.
Yeah.
With them going to tribal. So we will see what happens, but another great Survivor episode, I thought. And this season's off to a pretty strong start. But we will continue covering Survivor. We will cover the next drop of Love is Blind. We're done with Big Brother, unfortunately, but for this season. But we have plenty more shows coming along here. So we will chat with you guys next week. Thank you for listening. And be sure to follow us at Let's Chat Reality on social media and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. So we'll chat